Have you ever witnessed a court-martial that ended in unexpected laughter? Specialist Marcus Davis was facing serious charges, theft of government property, specifically a Humvee worth $200,000. Command wanted to make an example of him. The prosecution painted him as a reckless soldier who'd stolen military equipment for a joyride. They had security footage showing Davis driving the Humvee off base without authorization. Clear-cut case, or so everyone thought. Davis represented himself, which usually means you're screwed. Most soldiers who skip the lawyer end up with maximum sentences, but Davis had this weird confidence about him. When his turn came to present evidence, he stood up with a stack of paperwork 3 inches thick, started reading regulation after regulation in this monotone voice that put half the courtroom to sleep. According to Army Regulation 750 subsection 3.2.4, motor vehicle operators are required to perform daily maintenance checks on assigned vehicles. The judge looked confused. What does this have to do with theft, specialist? Getting there, sir. AR 38555 states that vehicles showing mechanical defects must be immediately removed from service and transported to designated maintenance facilities. Davis pulled out photographs. The Humvee's engine bay looked like a disaster zone. Oil leaking everywhere, belts frayed, radiator cracked. Thing was held together with duct tape and prayers. On the morning in question, I discovered these critical safety violations during my pre-operation inspection. The vehicle was completely unsafe for personnel transport. The prosecution objected. Your Honor, he still stole the vehicle. Davis smiled. Actually, sir, I was following proper protocol. AR 7528 requires immediate transport of unsafe vehicles to maintenance facilities. The nearest authorized repair depot was 30 miles off base. He'd driven the broken Humvee to a civilian mechanic shop, had all the receipts, paid for repairs with his own money because the motor pool was backlogged for weeks. But here's where it gets interesting. Davis had documented everything with obsessive detail. Photos, timestamps, regulation citations. He'd followed every rule perfectly. The judge asked, why didn't you inform your chain of command? I did, sir. Filed a work order 3 weeks prior. No response. Filed another one 2 weeks later. Still nothing. AR 75-1 states that operators cannot wait indefinitely for administrative approval when safety is compromised. Davis had created a paper trail that would make accountants weep with joy. Every form filled out correctly, every regulation cited properly, every procedure followed to the letter. The prosecution was scrambling. Their theft case was falling apart. The defense attorney they'd expected to steamroll was actually a regulation quoting machine. Then Davis dropped the bombshell. Your Honor, I'd like to call my first witness. In walked the civilian mechanic holding a massive folder. Turns out the Humvee hadn't just been broken. It had been dangerously defective for months. Brake lines corroded, steering components loose, transmission failing. This vehicle was a death trap, the mechanic testified. Whoever was driving it probably saved lives by getting it off the road. The safety officer's face went white. He'd been signing off on inspections without actually checking anything. If Davis hadn't removed that Humvee, someone could have died. Judge called a recess. When court reconvened, the prosecution looked defeated. They tried arguing about unauthorized repairs, but Davis had another regulation for that too. AR 75032 allows emergency repairs when mission-critical vehicles require immediate attention and standard channels are unresponsive. By now, everyone was laughing. Not at Davis, but at the situation. This kid had outlawyered actual lawyers using nothing but military regulations and common sense. The judge finally spoke. Specialist Davis, in 30 years on this bench, I've never seen someone follow regulations so thoroughly that they accidentally committed the perfect crime. More laughter from the gallery. Even the prosecutors were smiling. All charges dismissed. Furthermore, I'm recommending you for commendation for preventing potential casualties through proactive maintenance awareness. The courtroom erupted. Davis saluted, gathered his paperwork, and walked out like nothing happened. Later learned he'd been studying regulations for years, had the entire manual memorized, used his knowledge to help other soldiers navigate bureaucratic nightmares. Command tried to recruit him for legal services. He declined. Said he preferred fixing things to arguing about them. That Humvee? Still running perfectly after the civilian repairs. Davis got it back 2 weeks later with a commendation letter from the base commander. Your attention to detail and regulatory compliance prevented potential loss of life. He framed both the letter and the mechanic's repair bill, hung them side by side in his barracks room with a handwritten note underneath. Sometimes following the rules perfectly is the most rebellious thing you can do.